My next guests are two enterprising young Black women, both Harvard grads. They have created a powerful and exciting business that opens up new horizons for other talented Black women and the business community. They run the Spoons Consultancy.
And we're really happy to be with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. The Spoons Consultancy is a creative consulting firm that is both owned and staffed by Black women who possess a number of different skill sets, ranging from digital marketing and website development all the way through research analysis, speech writing, and project management. And essentially, we provide project capacity support for businesses and brands that are looking for additional help. So typically, we work with clients on either discrete projects that could last for 1 to 2 months, or long-term retainers where we are kind of additional staff people that they can rely on throughout the year to help them kind of build up their internal capacity.
That's fantastic. You're like a complete organization available for hire. But really, what I want to know is the backstory. I want to know, what is the inspiration for forming this organization? What's the thinking behind it? Either one of you, or both of you.
Yeah, the Spoons Consultancy is an offshoot of a larger brand and community called the Life of a Single Spoon, which started in 2017. And so the purpose of the Life of a Single Spoon was to provide space for Black millennial women and femmes to talk and share resources. We started Spoons shortly after graduating, and we really just wanted to provide a safer space for folks like ourselves to come together and share some of what they were learning, understanding some of the growing pains, discuss things from, professional advice all the way to like how they would meal prep or how they were keeping up with fitness and some of their travels. And so from there, we started to do different types of programs, but we needed a way to sustain the community. And from the conversations we were having, we saw that there were a lot of other women like ourselves who were consulting on a range of projects and had a large range of skill sets. And so we started to test out the model of what it looked like for us to serve as like a middle person, because Jasmine and I have both had like a range of experiences when it comes to consulting, some greater than others. And we started to see that if there was someone there to advocate for us, to make sure we were paid on time, to make sure that, our scope of work was respected, and to really help to sort through some of the details that can be tedious and a bit overwhelming, how helpful that could be. And so from there, we started to grow our list of clients. And we moved from simply connecting consultants to serving as more of a curator of projects, and to, really
Oh, wait
create.
a minute. Now, slow down. Now, what's the distinction between the consulting and the curation? And feel free to interrupt each other if you wish.
Yeah. So when originally we were just connecting people to projects, so we were
Okay.
really serving in more of a human resources capacity. And now we are both like seeking out projects, putting together teams, um, taking on projects and working with some of the consultants ourselves. And so, consultants have the opportunity to engage with us in whatever capacity works best for them. Some folks are full time consultants, and they lean on us for some of their projects. Other folks consult, here and there on a monthly basis as they have time. And so we provide that range of offerings for, other Black women.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, Paige, what Paige said is, we realized kind of as we were just kind of connecting clients to consultants that we were actually offering a lot more than just that. We often serve as thought partners with our clients. They may come to us with an idea, chat with us for 30 minutes, and realize that they want to go in a different direction because of what we've shared. And so we really kind of built into our model that we support clients from ideation through project implementation. So we work with a lot of brands that are just getting started. It might be one or two people with an idea, and we help kind of flesh out that back end business development strategy so that by the time they're ready to build their website, it's completely targeted to what it is that they actually want to do beyond just kind of the initial concept that they may have come to us with. So that adds a little bit of flavor to what Paige meant when she said we curate these projects as well.
You're kind of like midwives for interesting startups. I mean, you also have some extraordinary video that talks about the challenges of being Black women in the corporate world. Can you talk about how that has inspired you or moved you forward to create this company?
Yeah, I mean, as Paige mentioned, I think both as Black women who have done independent consulting and then Black women who have worked for corporations, there's often this kind of extraction that happens with our labor where we give a lot, but we're not really getting much in return. And so oftentimes, you know, your job may be to do one thing, but your manager may pull you in to ask you questions about race and racism, or, you know, whenever racial justice is a hot topic, you as a Black person and Black woman, you know, might become the person that's sought after for that input, but not compensated or respected or appreciated. And then when you add in the layer on top of being a woman, you find yourself being voluntold to be the one to take notes, or you may say something and it's completely ignored and the client or a white colleague repeats it and all of a sudden it's a great idea. And so after kind of multiple experiences of that, just within the, I would say, 2 years that Paige and I experienced entering the workforce after college, kind of really cemented for us that we weren't built for that kind of work environment. And we were interacting with a lot of similarly situated Black women who were feeling those pressures, that they were giving a lot, but not getting a lot in return. And that actually also translated into their professional development. So not being thought of for stretch opportunities, or, you know, knowing that you possess this wealth of skills, but your job is so narrowly defined that you don't get to access or contribute those skills. And so the consultancy is also an outlet for those who want to have someone invest in their PD and give them the room to grow.
Is it difficult to find each other? I mean, one of the things when I look at the wonderful production work on your website and on your LinkedIn, I see lots of beautiful Black women on that. And was it difficult to find colleagues and co-consultants, or did it just naturally, organically come about?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty organic for us. But I think part of that is what, goes to what Jasmine mentioned, is that we believe in doing things in a way that actually work for Black women consultants. And so it's not too hard. And we also have a tremendous respect for those we work with, like on both the client side and the consultants. And so for us, a lot of it was just, going back to people who we've known or we've heard about or we've valued their work and reaching out to them. And then people, I would say the amazing thing about Spoons has always been that folks are drawn to it in this way that is just really beautiful and heartwarming. And, folks would come, and once we, mentioned that we were starting to do consulting work, folks offered and, let us know about other people in their circle who may have launched their own consulting agencies or full-time freelancers, or were just really great at whatever their craft is. And because we also, a lot of times in these spaces, these corporate spaces, or just any kind of traditional workspace, because we see some similar issues within like the nonprofit space and other things outside of the consulting space. But we find that a lot of times folks are boxed into these really, small, narrowly defined roles. And we are always asking people, like, do you have a hidden talent? Is there something you want to grow into? Is there something that no one ever asked you to do, but you're really good at doing? And in doing so, a lot of times we find some really great gems. Even our original graphic designer for Life of a Single Spoon, we had no idea. We went to school with her for undergrad, had no idea that she was an amazing graphic designer. A lot of times in her workspaces, she wasn't being asked to do graphic design because no one knew. And now she's literally preparing to go to grad school with a focus on design. And so it's been amazing to be part of that journey. But that's pretty normal at this point when it comes to how we've attracted consultants.
Well, now, a lot of people talk about organizational culture. And when I look at your group from the outside, I see a very different kind of culture, a way of being. Can you talk about the way of being, or maybe the unwritten way of being that you interact with each other? Or
Yeah.
maybe you can't. Maybe it's just naturally wonderful. I don't know, but I saw something different there.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is natural, but most of it is very intentional. Paige and I spend a lot of time talking about what we want folks' experience to be like, because, you know, they're offering something to us, services, and so we want to make sure that they feel respected. Again, like Paige said, that they know that we're invested in their professional development. So really saying, you know, if you're interested in social media and you've never been a social media manager before, run our Instagram accounts. Like, get that experience through working with us or for us, so you can feel like you're growing in your role as well. So from a culture perspective, in terms of, you know, workload, we're always really conscious of making sure that consultants feel like they have enough time for each of their projects. We share with them the project timeline and scope of work before we officially sign any contracts with clients, to make sure that they're comfortable. For longer term projects, we stipulate with clients that we will continue to provide you with consultants that can do this work, but it may not be the same consultant that you started with. If this is a 2-year project, our consultants don't work for us all the time, full time, but we can make sure you have a graphic designer, but like, don't expect it to necessarily be the person that you started with on day one. And that's really to make sure that we're protecting the consultants and their time, and really kind of giving them the flexibility to develop their own unique career path. And then related to that, economically, we have a very different, I think, concept of what it means to run a business. We love making profits, but that is not the sole intent or focus of our company. And so we are actually in the process right now of transitioning part of our work into a co-op, where some of the key consultants that have been with us from day one are actually sharing in the equity of the entire company. So you said you liked our website. That website was designed by a Spoons consultant. Our videos were edited and recorded by Spoons consultants. Our social media is run by Spoons consultants. So we really have a team of Black women who've been kind of pouring into our idea for this business. And so, you know, we thought it was only right to really kind of transition this into a co-op so that they're sharing in the profits of that labor as well.
Okay, but you guys are making me work because I'm trying to get you to talk about something I saw, so I'm going to talk about it. You had these wonderful Wednesday evening uh, wine gatherings that were virtual, of course, in this pandemic, but it really sent a signal of warmth and inclusion and um, love in that seemed to be part of what you were creating. Am I giving you too much credit? Is that accurate in my observation? That there's
Yeah.
this warmth going on, this welcoming.
Well, that's amazing that those are like that's the way you would describe it, because I think that we always want people to feel welcome. We always want folks to feel comfortable and safe. But I think part of it is that we've over the years, like with the community work that we did, we found that there's a cadence to what people like. You know, we know people like wine. We know people like to chit chat. And if there's some professional development that can happen in that space, bringing all those together, we're gonna get a crowd of our people, at least, you know, folks who that also resonates with. And so for us, we know that people work differently. We know that this is, especially during this time, that people, you know, are able to hop on and are willing to have a wine night and to be in community with other. At that time, that wine night was curated around those who were creative consultants, who were those who may be doing social media management or marketing or communications or producers. But we are looking to do additional ones in the future around different industries as well, just to provide people with space. And so um, everything we do is around the concept of taking our experiences and translating them into processes that work for folks who, you know, share those same values, or programming that works for folks who share those same values as well.
Yeah, it looked like a family gathering almost. It reminded me of, I didn't see at least on the videos, I didn't have the feeling that there was a key person or a less important person. It looked like everybody was gathered together to share in what was going on. Now, I couldn't see the virtual environment. I could only see the outdoor gathering that looked like everybody was coming together. But it seemed like a very intentional way of saying we are a community as opposed to a hierarchical structure. So I may be again reading into that, but I really enjoyed that. Tell me some of the um, work that you are really proud of, without necessarily naming names unless you want to. But what are some of the things that you've created so far as a group?
Yeah, so much. I mean, I think one project that really stands out is a project that we're currently working on. We're working with a Black woman who has been working for traditional foundations and philanthropic organizations for a while, but is looking to start her own advisory consulting firm where she helps Black and Indigenous leaders of color really think about how to build their own philanthropic networks. And that can range from community giving circles all the way through, you know, multimillionaires who are looking to start a foundation, but really rooting the work in racial equity. And what's been so great about working with her is, you know, she has a very clear vision, and Paige and I had the opportunity to help kind of shape what it is that she hopes to bring in terms of her service offerings. She's moving in now to work with some consultants on her branding and her pitch deck. She'll be working with our consultants to build her website and to do some marketing efforts. So really the full gamut of kind of bringing this Black woman's vision to life, which is so important for us in this project specifically because her work has such a strong impact on our communities. She's specifically focused on how to bring philanthropic funds into Black communities and how to inform those foundation strategies so that they're getting at root causes and informed by the lived experiences of Black people in their communities. So that's one project that sticks out to me. What about you, Paige?
I think there are two experiences that have been really fundamental for us this year. So one of which is working with like two startups from like their inception, and literally seeing them through, like working with them and working with the consultants to help them pick out their brand colors and their fonts and their website, and get together their starting list of like assets for them to go on and then make, for some of them, like over $500,000 in their first year. And that's amazing. They're both, Black-led startups focused on equity. And for one of those startups, Pink Corn Rose, which is a really great women-led, womanist-focused equity firm, we were able to work with them on a campaign called And Still I Vote, which was an influencer-led digital campaign focused on really raising awareness around voter suppression, working with influencers to highlight that. And we were like the communication support team for that project. So supporting with graphic design, video production, copy, social media management, digital strategy. And to see the social presence of the sponsoring organization, which was the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, to see them go from a few thousand, like less than 2,000 followers, to having over like 200,000 followers now, and just seeing the importance that like digital strategy played within this past election. It feels so amazing to have played a role in that. And especially as we've built out more of our communications and marketing work, knowing that we can come in to an existing entity and support them in handling these large nationwide campaigns is amazing.
What's your ideal client?
I would say that our ideal client is someone who inherently respects the voices of Black women as a principle. We do not like to put people in situations where they can't be their full selves. So that would just kind of be a values perspective off the top. We love working with social justice organizations or brands. Those are really exciting because while we aren't explicitly a consultancy that only staffs to mission aligned or mission specific organizations, we definitely love having an impact on our communities and the issues that we find to be important. And I would say lastly, something that we've learned is a client that respects the budget and how much it costs to do the work that we provide. When we first started, we were offering kind of all types of services for just like no money at all, because we were just passionate about the ideas. But in becoming like business owners, we're realizing that, you know, we do need to be making money to actually fund this business. So having a client that is prepared to kind of put their money where their mouth is. And I'd still say that we're a lot cheaper than a lot of other consulting firms, but someone who definitely respects our work enough to kind of put their money behind it.
And they also get the value of your extraordinary beings and the fact that you know millennials and the younger generation. You are quite an asset. So let's talk individually about each of you for a moment. So, Jasmine, I know you from many years because I'm a friend of your mother, but I had never really had a chance to talk to you at length. Um, I know you went to Harvard. I know you were excelled at Harvard. Um, how did your journey, and talk about your journey, how did that inform you to come to this place? I mean, you could be working at any major corporation with your credentials. What brought you to this entrepreneurial endeavor?
Whew, yeah, I mean, this really kind of all came out of, to be frank, like the trauma of being embedded in predominantly white institutions, particularly elite white institutions like Harvard. While I feel like learn a lot academically, and Paige also, we were the same class, so like made lifelong friendships. It's very difficult spending your kind of formative adult years in an environment that was not made in your image at all. Like feeling oftentimes like an afterthought, both socially, but then again, also academically, not really necessarily having a ton of professors that were invested in Black people across subject matter, and really kind of finding yourself learning a lot through very Eurocentric lenses, and not really feeling heard. And so going into the actual workforce, I knew that I wanted to work for a place that was trying to make the world a better place. Like I didn't know exactly what I wanted that to look like. And luckily I found the consulting firm that I worked at before, Bridgespan, a nonprofit consulting firm. And that gave me really good insight into the type of work that I wanted to do. And I think Bridgespan does great work, but it wasn't necessarily aligned with kind of the direct experience and impact that I wanted to have in underserved Black communities. And so I ended up going to grad school, and I actually recently just graduated from a master's program in city and regional planning and public policy. And so my like personal passion is really in affordable housing and how to create structures in place politically, policy-wise, but also kind of built in programming to ensure that Black people can stay in place. Everyone wants to live in a nice community. And so it shouldn't be when the schools get nice and when the sidewalks get put in that we get displaced. And so building out an infrastructure where I will be able to be in control of how I do that work, who I work with, is really what makes entrepreneurship so attractive, is like not having to rely on a boss or a big boss who's someone else's boss to kind of trickle down projects that only somewhat allow me to express myself. I think I have the foresight to know that I can't be in a career like that for the next 30 years. Like I'll just completely burn out. So the benefit of entrepreneurship is kind of building out an infrastructure that will allow me to kind of be in control of my life and be in control of my career.
That is excellent. And I gather you are not taking just Black clients. You will take any conscious client that comes your way, but not just any client, a conscious client, one that is going to serve the community, as you put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to make that distinction. Paige, what's your driving force besides knowing this wonderful Jasmine too?
Yeah, so Jasmine and I went to undergrad together. I would definitely echo what she said about just being in spaces that were not built for us and that we're oftentimes forced to fit into. I think that from my undergrad experience, I became trained as an ethnographer, so really valued the stories that people told, interviews, focus groups, being able to be out in the community. And for me, what drives me is just that, being able to tell people stories and to impact policy through those stories, especially when it comes to the lives of Black women and their families. And so for me, I wanted to get further into policy after graduating undergrad. And so I did my master's abroad at the University of Oxford, focused in understanding like social policy, particularly like welfare and how it interacts with mass incarceration. And so I had actually been doing some consulting work throughout college. I just didn't know that that was what I was doing. I was doing work with some folks taking on projects, and I knew that I was developing what seemed to me at the time of like it's always wonderful to look back on your journey and to say, oh, I did these things that led me here. But at the time, I was just following projects that spoke to me, and that spoke to me and that I was passionate about. And so coming from there, I moved from, I went from being abroad to Detroit, and I really wanted to do work within the community development space here. And my route into that was to do consulting with different nonprofits, focus on policy and research. And did that for a while, continued doing that while I, went to work for a nonprofit and then for a Black-led social impact firm. And then, came back into the community development space here. And all the while was continuing to do consulting work. And I think for those of us who have interests in things that are not necessarily always seen as linear or, have a wide, range of skill sets, I found that the consulting path provides me with an outlet for that in a way that can have impact that is oftentimes, at least for my journey, I feel like a lot of times I, would be in professional environments that only saw a part of me. So maybe they only saw me as a researcher, but they didn't see the more creative sides of me or allow me to have space to be a more creative researcher and storyteller. Or maybe they were folks who, were really, organizations or corporations that were gaining a lot from my identity and what I brought to those projects, but actually weren't invested in my growth as a professional, even when I was explicit about that, And so oftentimes I think my journey professionally so far has taught me the importance of voicing what I need, and when people don't hear, finding the channels to do it myself. And that's what Spoons has allowed, I think, both of us to do, is to like understand what we need and to just do it.
Well, in closing, unless there's something else you want to tell me, I'd like you both to give me a crack at telling me about the metaphor of spoons. What do you started with life as a single spoon. What is it about spoons that I may be missing?
No, she has to answer that question.
Okay.
Oh, this is always the question. So one, Life of a Single Spoon is just a catchy name, right? You don't forget it once you hear it. But at the time we were graduating and starting to think about this, originally Life of a Single Spoon was going to be a blog with like me, Jasmine, and a few of our other friends of like, what does it look like to explore, post-grad life after, undergrad. And the name came from just thinking about being your own little spoon, your own little entity, and like you're traveling the world. So it's like I used to joke with people like, oh, what the life of a single spoon, and able to, to dibble and dabble and taste this and do that. And now, it's become its own thing where it's so far removed from like the name of like the Spoons Consultancy, but it's stuck in its own way. And so we oftentimes use it as a branding tool. And especially at the beginning, we used to do a lot of cutlery themed things.
Love this.
A spoonful of that, a dash of this, big spoon, little spoon. And we used it as this visual tool. And now people will refer to themselves as spoons. And so to continue the branding and to show the continuity from the community and platform to the consultancy, the name has remained.
Well, I'm inspired. I am moved by both of you and everything I've seen. I I really thank you for being with me. I wish you both success, and I look forward to future conversations. People can find your website at the end of this program.